this obviously sparked outrage amongst the community, because one thing the community of LA does is when you target one of their own, they stand up for each other. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Blue Sedition podcast. We did it. We had a week off because nothing happened last week. Nothing going on this week. Kind of boring.
Super
no
quiet
news to talk about. And that's the show. Thanks everybody, and we'll catch you next time. No, wait a minute.
Appreciate y'all showing up.
Wait. I'm getting some breaking news. There's protests in California. Elon and Trump have broken up. Greta Thunberg has been kidnapped by Israeli forces. Okay, sounds like we have a lot to talk about today.
Okay, you know what? Let's just stick around. Hang out.
Oh my Lord. Okay, we got stuff to talk about. I think we should just go right into what I think is the main story, because it's also happening close to you and I, Mike. It's the protests in LA. What's going on?
Yes.
What's happening in LA right now?
They're protesting ICE's immediate jurisdiction. Basically, they're how we've been talking about this on the podcast for the last several weeks, but ICE is now taking more and more drastic steps in trying to detain and eventually deport non-citizens from the United States. And obviously low-hanging fruit, Southern California has a lot of those. And we, as Californians, don't take well to ICE telling us what we can and can't do in this state.
Yeah.
So we're protesting ICE being here because we don't believe that they should be an organization generally anyway.
Yeah, so as you can see from the headline here, that Los Angeles anti-ICE protests enter fourth night amid National Guard deployment, immigration enforcement actions. I mean, this started on Friday after a number of ICE raids in the LA area, which they targeted neighborhoods like Westlake, downtown, South LA. And I think they targeted or arrested 44 immigrants. Of course, this, I think there was one raid on like a Home Depot. This obviously sparked outrage amongst the community, because one thing the community of LA does is when you target one of their own, they stand up for each other. And so that's what's happening now. And of course, Elon Musk, sorry, I was thinking of the wrong president. Donald Trump has, sorry. Donald Trump immediately wants to incite violence here, additional violence. Yeah. So he, immediately deployed 2,000 National Guard troops. And on yesterday, an additional 700 U.S. Marines to LA for what amounts to a pretty small protest in a very, very, very small section of downtown Los Angeles.
Yeah, and it really flies in the face of conventional governance of the last 100 years, where the National Guard is generally deployed by the governor of the state as a request to the president and not sent in by the president. Bit of trivia, Nate. Do you remember the last time that the president sent in the National Guard of his own accord without consulting with a governor?
Do I remember the last time? I'm going to say yes. I bet I do.
I bet you do.
Well, I could be wrong. I don't know if we're thinking the same thing. Don't tell me. Me. Was it desegregation?
It was related to that. Yeah. Are you surprised?
Yeah. No, I'm not surprised. I was thinking, like, did a president send in a National Guard on January 7th? January 6th? January 6th. Was it the attacks on the Capitol building? Trump sent in the National Guard for that, I assume.
I mean, I don't recall him doing that. I remember the mayor of DC requesting it of him and basically getting
Okay.
ghosted.
Okay.
Uh,
So no, that didn't happen. No. Okay. So I do remember. I mean, I wasn't there for it, but I believe that the National Guard, the governor called in the National Guard in Little Rock, Arkansas,
that's right.
to to uh, to to stop desegregation. But then the president at the time, who was president at the time,
What I have in my notes here is Johnson.
okay, sent in federal troops and took over the National Guard to stop the National Guard from stopping desegregation. Am I getting that right?
I think you're mixing a few different things, but yeah, that's generally the two incidents that I was aware of.
Okay,
So you have Little Rock and you have Selma, and
oh no, no,
um,
I'm just talking about Little Rock. I believe. I mean, again, this has been a while. I haven't read up on this recently, but I believe that what happened was that the governor of Arkansas was trying to use the National Guard to stop the desegregation of schools because he was against desegregation, and then
right.
Johnson, I don't, was that who it was? Well, either way, the president at the time took over the National Guard to stop them from stopping desegregation of schools in Little Rock. But anyway,
That sounds right. Yeah.
we
The
we
point
digress.
was we have a long history of deferring to the governor in
Right.
requesting for National Guard. And so this just flies in the face of that. I was just
Well,
trying to point that out.
it's not even a history. It's potentially illegal for the president of the United States to usurp the governors of those states to use their National Guard. Um,
I admit I don't know enough about the National Guard and their deployment
okay.
processes, but I thought that they were under the executive and that generally the governor asks the president for permission to deploy.
Uh,
It doesn't really matter since neither of those scenarios came out, and it's just the president enacted them and thought we didn't have enough of these guys. Let's send in the military now.
Yeah, yeah. The president does have legal authority to federalize and deploy a state's National Guard. Because remember, this is the state's National Guard without the governor's approval, but only under very specific and rare circumstances.
Interesting. Okay.
And so what he's doing right now technically required congressional approval.
So that's why he's being sued by the
So
state
that's
of
why he's being
California.
sued by Newsom and Attorney General Bonta. They're arguing
Yeah.
that the president's recent deployment of the National Guard to LA violates both state sovereignty and federal law, and that there is no invasion or rebellion, which would be the rare circumstances to justify what
Wow.
Trump did.
I wonder what all those states' right guys are going to say to that when we tell them like Trump's violating California's states' rights. You like states' rights, right? You guys are really big into states' rights out there in the Midwest. Like you're on our side on this, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, no. So, oh, yeah. Okay. So I see it here as I just researched that the last time a president bypassed a governor to deploy the National Guard was in 1965 when President Johnson sent troops to Alabama to protect
Right.
civil rights marchers under the Insurrection Act. Do you remember um, there used to be a country that was all about freedom, right to protest, First Amendment
Right.
rights? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know which country that is.
It's Canada.
It's Canada, because that sounds nice. Doesn't that
sounds
sound like a nice place? We don't have that here.
We don't. We gave that up for a God King, I guess.
A
I'm not
God
sure.
King. But your egg prices, are they lower?
Ooh. They're a very specific type of low in that they cost less than my car. You're
Oh.
relatively low.
So the California lawsuit contends that the situation in Los Angeles did not rise to the level required for federal intervention, and that the president's actions were both unprecedented and unlawful. I mean, that sounds like basically everything the president does, right?
Yeah, but I wanted to
unprecedented and
ask too, because
unlawful.
you said that it would require congressional approval. So even if it rose to meet those demands,
Right.
did Congress vote on this? Is
No.
that always so slam dunk?
It would seem like a slam dunk. Now, a slam dunk
Yeah,
from who? There, the
it'll be the
Newsom,
judiciary,
right?
obviously,
So
because it'll
Newsom
be
files the emergency motion to stop Trump's use of National Guard and Marines in LA. Don't know where that is, as I understand it right now. Nothing has happened on that. And these are live updates here. And 8 minutes ago, California governor asked court to block Trump administration from using troops in immigration raids. So we'll see what happens here. I mean, the pictures coming out of LA, and again, I mean, I think it's really important to know. I wish I had the map. I had a map recently, and I should have saved it for the pod. But there's a map showing basically all of LA, and then very specifically where these protests are happening. And it's really,
as I recall,
go
we're
ahead.
going to give away my Californianness here, but my
Okay.
understanding is that it's on a small section of the 101 freeway, right? So
Yeah,
it's on Santa Ana, and it's like,
it's a
is it in Hollywood? Where is this? Like North Hollywood?
it's a very very small section, and I'm not downplaying the protests themselves. I think
No,
the people out there who are standing up for their neighbors and they're standing up for the right to due process are brave, and I'm proud of them. But
yeah,
I'm calling out like the Christy Gnomes and the Jim Jordans who are saying that LA is full of criminals, it's lawless, it's burning to the ground right now. The one thing to note is anytime, and I called out a Trump supporting acquaintance of mine and basically asked them the same thing, because of course January 6th was federal agents, right? That wasn't a real protest. But let's just pretend for a second that it was a real protest and that there actually were people that were there, quote unquote, peacefully protesting, because there were people
sure.
there. I'm peacefully protesting this transition of power because they believed that the election was stolen. Now there were
Sure.
other people who were opportunists and violent who those select group of people, even though it was there was a lot of them, made it worse for everyone. So here in Los Angeles, the same thing is happening, especially in Los Angeles. Anytime that there's a protest, anytime that there's any type of civil unrest in these big cities, you're going to have these opportunists, these antagonizers who are going to start looting. That does not discount the entirety of the protest. And so if you're going to come at us with
Right.
that, you're just going to get you're gone. I'm not going to have an argument or a discussion with you.
Yeah, no, it's a silly argument to make.
Right.
I
It's just
remember
a straw
thinking
man.
back to the protests surrounding the murder of George Floyd,
Right.
and there were similar protests in Los Angeles at the time as well. And I remember vividly of people being upset because somebody had like started a fire next to a Citibank, and they were like, "Oh, they're." You remember they deployed all the cops and stuff around this Citibank to like protect it, like it was Fort Knox. We're just like, if this building comes down, nobody cares. None of the actual people who live here care. Even the people who work there don't care. Just
I
so stop pretending that
remember.
this is like the Blitzkrieg or something. This is just such a non-issue. And if you look at the photos from this thing, there's like 8 cars on fire,
Right. Now,
and they're probably their cars.
I remember the Rodney King riots,
Yeah, yeah,
and I remember that there were legitimate, there were people, there were citizens on top of their businesses, with weapons trying to
yeah.
defend their businesses from looters. This is not what's happening here,
No,
and even still, again, those people they deserve their due process, but if people are caught looting, that's a separate thing and that needs to be taken care of, okay?
yeah.
But the majority of the people are out here protesting and they're getting shot at, they're getting flashbanged from the police, they're getting hit with rubber bullets. Did you see the video of the
The woman.
Australian reporter
Yeah.
that got hit with the rubber bullet? And I mean, they literally fired right at her. It was
Yeah.
just like a group of reporters
Yeah.
reporting, and they fired right at.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember because they sort of weirdly, in my view, none of the news agencies have run and pivoted this story from there are protests to now there are riots. They did that during the George Floyd protests. I remember the headlines changing from Los Angeles protests to Los Angeles riots, and obviously Minnesota and other states as well.
Right.
But that tone changed.
Right.
And it was being framed as if the protesters were the agitators. And I guess I'm just surprised they haven't done that yet. But in all honesty, what you and I believe, which is that the protests are always peaceful until the rioters show up wearing police uniforms.
Right. Right. And I want to call out specifically, you talked about that change in the narrative. I think a big reason for that is, of course, the national news media. And I want to play this clip for you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen this yet, but I want to play this for you. This is a CNN reporter live on CNN last night at 7:30 describing the scene and what's going on.
These that I'm sorry, I'm just trying to do this. I keep the microphone up before it gets really loud if they start firing again. These are what people in the crowd have been firing at the ground. Those caused some of the explosions.
What?
Like a foam thing. You can smell the explosive on it. That causes the police to immediately respond.
What?
Charge. And we've seen a lot of people fall. We actually, our shot was down for a couple minutes here because we were running a little bit out of breath. Just because you have to get away from them. They just.
So this reporter, for those that are only listening, is holding up one of those flashbang devices that are the police are using, and she is saying that the protesters are throwing them at the police.
Yeah, throwing them.
Throwing them.
These are munitions that are being fired out of guns by the police officers. These are not.
And she's saying
throwing them.
And you can see her. You can see the police behind her. She's kind of embedded with the officers. And she is saying, this is CNN, okay, that is saying that protesters are shooting things at the police.
So I don't know if you saw this, but you shared this with us, or somebody did. I'm not quite sure who. But if you scroll down a little bit, there's another post in this thread called Aaron's latest post, right there. Most recent post on Blue Sky. Scroll down a little more and just let that one play out for you.
Okay.
Oh,
wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Oh, hold up
Holy
here. Why do those look so familiar?
Oh. So for those, again, that can't see, that are only listening on the pod, there's another video just below this post where it zooms in on a police officer in his full riot gear, although most of his large chin is exposed. That helmet's not doing a great job.
He is a specimen, isn't he?
Wow. America's finest right there, folks. He is holding one of these flashbang, firing.
No, he's got the canister launcher,
right?
And it's got 3 shells on the butt of it. He's just holding it finger off the trigger. But I mean, those shells that she just claimed the protesters were firing
right there.
are strapped to the butt of his gun.
They're literally right there.
Oh my god!
And he's getting overtime.
People are. How
he's getting overtime
reporters? I mean, they have to be doing it on purpose, right? There's no way she could fall for such an obvious grift from a police officer.
So yeah, I mean, Erin Burnett is a well-educated, experienced journalist. There is literally no way that she doesn't know what she's doing and what she's talking about here.
So she's playing for the enemy, is what I'm hearing. She's trying to whitewash the police's narrative and have it so that there's a riot in its infancy here. Is that
right.
Is that what we're claiming?
That's
what it sounds like.
So when you talk about,
I would love to get a comment from her. I would be like, can you reconcile your statement on these things and then this very obvious picture of a police officer having those munitions strapped to their launcher?
Yeah.
What? Now I have heard, and maybe she's confused. She's clearly she mentions that she's out of breath and they've been running, and being a reporter is a scary job, especially in tense situations like this. I get it. I have heard of during protests like this that there will be instigators who will like throw out M80s and things to just try and make something happen. You know, the poking this thing with the stick, hey, do something. Those sorts of agitators do exist. I'm not saying which side they're playing for or if they're playing for a side, but they're very often just looking to stir up trouble. And that could have happened. You know, somebody throws out an M80 and it makes a big bang noise and she picks one of those up off the ground thinking that that was fired by a protester.
No, don't you stop.
No.
Just stop. You're giving her too much credit.
I'm going to stop.
Yeah, just no. These people know what they're doing. And again, this is your, liberal source for news these days. And as we CNN, and as we know, it's not that. I mean, every major news network has acquiesced to this authoritarian regime.
Yeah.
They're not talking about the things that matter. They're, the police are not out here protecting the citizens. They are arguably, I think LA Mayor Karen Bass has said that there is no coordination between the LAPD and the National Guard. That does not seem to be the case from people on the ground. There does seem to be coordination and communication between the two outfits, and the LAPD does not seem to be doing what it can to protect the citizens and the peaceful protesters on the ground.
No, and I mean, that's part of the problem. And this is the reason that the Trump admin and authoritarians in general don't like protesting, because the police can't help. That's not what the purpose of the protest is. They want their voices to be heard, and they want to disrupt society in a peaceful manner for a short period of time. And what are the police supposed to do? They're not going to like block off the street for you. They're not going to be like, nobody can go to work, because you're already doing that. You know what I mean? So like the police have no real purpose here. And all they do is get agitated by protesters rightfully shouting, things at them. But the best case scenario would be just for the police to leave and let it burn out on its own. We talked about this during the Colombia protests over the Israeli genocide in Gaza. And we said the same thing. It was like the easiest way for these protests to die is to let them fizzle. Just don't do anything, and they'll end, because the end of school was a week away or whatever.
I mean,
you're gonna go home.
It almost. This is what we said kind of towards the beginning of the pod. I mean, it felt like when Trump called in the National Guard, he was doing it purely to instigate. I mean. Yeah. He wants to. We haven't even talked about the fact that he called for the.
We haven't talked about Newsom.
Gavin Newsom. I mean, he wants to escalate it to the point where he can blame Karen Bass. He can blame Gavin Newsom. He can send in more troops. He can rile more people up. He can get his supporters involved. It escalates into more violence. Somebody said to me, "Oh, so much for a peaceful protest, huh?" It was, first of all, there's no such thing as a peaceful protest. If protests were peaceful, the protests wouldn't do anything. Okay, like you said, the point of a quote unquote peaceful protest is some level of disruption. You're not going to get that level of disruption without carrying some of the looters, vandalizers, arsonists, those type of people who you don't necessarily want with you. You remember the clip of Adwali, I'm forgetting how to pronounce his name. He was walking out of Colombia and he was saying, my Jewish brothers and my Palestinian brothers, we are working on finding peace. And then somebody like walked right behind him, like right down next to him, and he was like, "Death to all Jews." And he was like, no, that's not what we want.
Right.
That's these people, these 1 in 100, or 1 in whatever it is, they're causing this type of disruption. And Trump is one of those people.
Right.
He's an antagonizer, an instigator, and he wants this to get violent.
Well, and to anyone who makes that argument, I can't, like, it's an easy argument to understand, where you're like, I see these outliers, let's say, who are acting in a way that is counter to the idea of a peaceful protest, and then painting that against the entire movement. I say the same things to them. I go, well, that's why I don't ascribe to a religion like Christianity, and I don't believe in backing the blue or any of those other things, because I've seen their outliers and they are worse by far. So if we're going to be doing this, let's at least, acknowledge that every group, no matter how good, has some bad in it.
Right. And I mean, and maybe not even part of those groups, especially in the case of the protesters. Right. Again, we're talking about, a very large populated area where people can just come out of their house and be like, oh, I don't know what's going on. I don't care about immigration raids, but I'm ready to cause some havoc. I'm ready to set this Waymo autonomous vehicle on fire, baby.
Look, I'm not even protesting, but I'm going to set some Waymos on fire. I just think it's funny.
Okay. So
the other thing, and you make a good point. I want to bring it back to the Columbia thing, because it's a similar situation, right? It's the end of the school year. You have a lot of teenagers coming, in end of high school years, college years, etc., who are suddenly finding themselves with a dearth of time. What are they going to do? And the most politically charged thing that's happening is happening, next door perhaps, or down the street at the Home Depot, like you said. And this is your community. You have free time now. Go out and protest.
Right. So I don't want, we're talking so much about the violence and about everything that's going around, and we want to make sure that it doesn't take away from the main point, the main reason for these protests, right? Which is these unlawful, unconstitutional ICE immigration raids.
Right.
So the protests have spread across, now things are popping up in Chicago, things are popping up in New York, Dallas, Atlanta. This is likely to continue.
Yeah.
And
like I said, it's the summer starting. There's going to be a lot of young 20-somethings and 18-year-olds and things like that have a huge amount of free time and want to stand for something. And this is something that they believe in.
Right.
So do I. I mean,
of course. I made a post that went, a little blue ski viral yesterday that, I can't believe that the president of the United States is, calling for troops to attack its own citizens. And meanwhile, we're all going into work on Monday morning. But
yeah,
we don't have a choice. I mean, this is the way the system is designed.
Right. And until some drastic systemic changes are made, then you don't have that luxury in a lot of cases.
So I have a lot of respect for the people that are they're risking a lot to go out there. I mean, some are being arrested. I think there's already been, at last count, 113 arrests. I don't know if these are looters. I don't know if these are peaceful protesters. Certainly, every time there is a protest like this, we see people being harassed and beaten by police, when it looked like I don't know if you saw the video recently with the man that was in the backpack that ended up being surrounded by the police on horseback that started kicking him and beating him. I mean, he was it looked like he wasn't doing anything, and he was certainly down and not resisting anything. And then police just on their horseback circling around him, beating him with a baton, kicking him. So again, I have a lot of respect for people that are out there, the demonstrators that are doing the right thing, that are exercising their First Amendment right, their right to protest. Keep doing what you're doing. And I'm proud of you for not backing down, especially in the face of now 2,000 National Guards and 700 Marines. I don't know when this will end. We're going to stay up to date with Newsom's lawsuit. I want to talk a little bit about Newsom, because he's done and said some things good during this. But it certainly doesn't take away from everything else that he has done. This stupid podcast that he's running. So this is great, right? So we're on day 4, day 5 of this protest, right? Day 4, and Dr. Phil was in a ride along with immigration with ICE during the raid in LA. And now today, I believe it's today, Dr. Phil is going to be on Gavin Newsom's podcast. So, I mean, what are you doing, man? What are you doing?
He's positioning himself to make as much noise as he can. I'm sort of convinced now that he's going to throw his hat into the ring to run in 28.
Oh, of course he is.
Presidency.
Of course he is.
He wants to keep it, and his mindset that he is the antithesis to the Trump policies and administration goals. So it's definitely a way to play it. But on the other hand, why on your podcast do you have Stephen Miller and
Steve Bannon and
Steve Bannon
yeah. I mean, it doesn't
and
make
being
sense.
like doing the Joe Rogan thing of being like, that's an interesting point. Maybe all races aren't equal, and then just like moving along.
Right. No backing, no fact checking or anything like that. Just a way to give another Nazi a platform. So
pretty much.
Newsom, stop.
Please stop.
And here it is right here. Trump suggests he's open to invoking the Insurrection Act to quell protests in LA. But my question is, well, what difference does it make? You're already sending in the National Guard and the Marines, which is you needed to do this first, technically, in order to do that. So what difference is this going to make?
I don't know, but here's something interesting that I looked up really quick. I was looking at the chain of command for the National Guard, and outside of them being federalized under something like the Insurrection Act, and approved by Congress, their direct and ultimate line of chain of command ends with the governor.
Right.
So if the governor's lawsuit becomes goes to court and they invoke like a stay, for example, or an emergency restraining order, ERO, the governor can send him home. He's in command.
I mean, why can't he
go down there and be like, go home, get out, go away?
So
the military will stay, but the National Guard, they can
the Marines will stay, and they'll have to take care of that. But to your point right now, Trump deployed the National Guard, going over Gavin Newsom's head, but Gavin Newsom is still technically the commanding.
He's the commanding officer.
So can't he just say, okay, beat it? Or go here, or whatever.
Go to Fresno,
and then say they're not following. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. So we'll see how the lawsuit plays out, and we'll see how tonight goes. I know peaceful immigrant. You look, you can see this peaceful protests outside of Seattle immigration, all over the U.S. right now. No Kings rallies are planned on Saturday. Oh, right. That's Trump's military parade is this weekend too. What great timing. Just what great timing. We're just deploying National Guard all in all of these cities. And now Trump is going to have a big military parade. Man, North Korea is a hell of a place to live. It's wild right now.
It is something else.
Okay. We're going to move on because we have some other things to talk about. Did you want to talk about this, paid protesters real quick before we move on from this?
No, that's okay. We can move on.
Okay.
There have been a lot of right-wing cracks who are like, oh, these are all paid Elon Musk types who are like, this is a paid protesting thing, and they're here to instigate, and they're not real people, and none of it's true. It's all just garbage.
Right. Well, since you invoked his name, we said it.
Oh, it's the third time,
and so we said it for the third time on the pod. Yeah, that means that we do have to discuss.
We have to cover him.
Yeah,
no.
we have to talk about him now. Unless you're living under a rock, you know that Trump and Musk had a huge falling out last week. That I think it was mostly going under the radar until Elon Musk tweeted that the reason why Donald Trump does not want to release the Epstein files is because he's absolutely in them. Which was, first of all, something that we all knew, at least something that all of us who aren't Trump cultists knew. But then the fact that Elon who was supposed to be this major Trump supporter. He said he didn't. What was the thing that he tweeted one time? Couldn't love another man more than he loved Donald Trump. And for him to say this, where now there was this huge coalition of both Elon Musk and Trump supporters that had come together, these little crypto bros, you know, sitting in their basement trying to find Bitcoin online or something. So this sent everyone into a panic on the MAGA side, worrying that, like, what are you doing? This is going to destroy our chances in the midterms. Oh, you know, and then being mad at one side or the other. So it's created this rift in this really stupid base of people.
Well, it's really interesting because as far as I was able to follow it, it seemed like Elon's biggest complaint was about the big beautiful bill.
Right.
He was like, the big beautiful bill is full of what do they call it? Pork. You know, it's like pork barrel subsidies and things for the, like, you're just spending a ton of money for the sake of spending it. It doesn't actually go to programs that are necessary. Yeah, giant EV cuts, which is of course the lifeblood of Tesla at the moment, since they're bleeding sales like crazy. The only thing keeping them afloat is those EV incentives. And it was like a lot of financial and political things in the bill that really pointed at Elon, like, and Elon's fighting back like, this is the worst bill that's ever been. And I agree, it's a terrible bill, and it does all the things that Elon's complaining about. It balloons the deficit, which he specifically claimed he was there to reduce. He's like, I'm going to cut and cut and cut with Doge, and we're going to reduce the deficit and get back to blah, blah, blah. And they're like, big, beautiful bill adds $2 trillion to the deficit.
Right.
And he said it. He's like, what are you doing? You brought me here to do this.
I mean, oh, God damn it, New York Times. I don't.
Reader view. Hit
no.
the reader view.
Well, okay. Can we do reader view? How do you even do reader view?
There's usually a button. Sorry, I'm not going to help you. I don't know how to use Chrome.
I don't know how to do reader view.
Darn.
Well, it doesn't.
Find a different source.
Yeah, let's find a better source. Stupid pay for. Well, that's not going to be better. Wopaw's going to make me pay for things. Let's see if the Business Insider will. Okay. I was hoping to see. Here we go. Here's like a timeline of madness. So, wise words. Elon Musk quote tweets something that Donald Trump said a couple of years ago, which is, I can't believe Republicans are extending the debt ceiling. I am a Republican and I am embarrassed. I think this was like 10 years ago that he posted this, right? And so so Elon's saying wise words now, pointing out that, well, you're still a Republican and look what you're doing. You're going to extend the debt ceiling. And he kept doing this. He kept quote tweeting things that Donald Trump said several years ago, about a balanced budget, about, you know, this excessive spending. And then people, and so then I think Trump or somebody said the real reason why Elon is upset is because of the EV cuts. And Elon's like, first of all, and I believe this, why would Elon give a shit about the EV stuff? He's making billions of dollars in government contracts and taking over the federal government right now. He doesn't give a shit about this little tiny EV stuff that's in this bill. I don't think so. I really, really don't think so. You're making a face? Highly doubt it.
You get an EV tax credit when you bought your Tesla? That was part of the incentive package. I know it was.
First of all, nobody's buying Teslas anymore. It's not even going to matter.
Well, and you think they're going to buy them after they cut that incentive out?
If you were
the bottom dollar, and
if you were going to, dude, it's millions of dollars to Elon, if that. It literally. And for most people who are going to buy a Tesla, no, the EV tax credit didn't mean anything to them. When I bought my Tesla before Elon went nuts, the EV tax credit didn't mean anything to me. I still wanted to buy the car, right? So to me, this means nothing. Now, I'm not defending Elon. I don't care what he says about it or not. I'm just saying that I don't think that this was the big reason, because Elon was against the tariffs, probably because it hurt Tesla and his other companies.
Yeah.
But at the very least, he's staying true to his political ideological beliefs. I don't agree with them, but arguing against bloated spending, you know, arguing that the cuts should be coming from all of these other places, that essentially would also help Elon's businesses as well. I mean, the whole point of this bill, remember, this bloated bill, the reason why it's so bloated is because we're doing what? We're paying for extended tax cuts for billionaires. Who does that mostly benefit? The richest man in the world. I mean, this bill would benefit him more than anybody, right? So for him to be arguing against it and have this much of a public falling out is actually kind of wild. Again, please don't read this as me defending Elon Musk. I hope both of them end this feud in the worst way possible.
In the funniest way possible.
Yeah, please. So then Elon goes on to say that without me, Trump would have lost the election, Dems would control the House, and Republicans would be 51-49 in the Senate. Such ingratitude.
And I don't even know that I disagree with him. I think that his last minute antics definitely turned the tide.
So I don't know. I agree with you. I don't know that I would disagree with what Elon's saying here. A lot of people questioned, what do you think that meant when he said that without me, Trump would have lost the election? Do you think there's something else there more than just money?
I don't know, man. It's too hard to tell now, but
Yeah.
I remember him sitting in that Tucker Carlson interview where he's got his kid with him, and they're like laughing, and I forget the exact quote, but we went over it on the pod, and it really just like reeked of the fixism. And,
Right.
and we don't know what it meant. Like it could mean anything, but it really
Right.
felt at the time like, man, it really seems like they're saying that they cheated this election somehow, and they're laughing about it.
Right. So yeah, I mean, well, anyway, and I think this timeline is omitting the tweets. Oh, here it is. Okay, because Elon has deleted the tweet. Here it is on Thursday.
A couple of tweets.
He deleted this Thursday at 3:10 p.m. after some back and forth with Trump and you know, hurling insults at each other. Musk makes this accusation. Time to drop the really big bomb. At real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. This is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, DJT. Man, these egomaniacs.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
I
don't know. So obviously it's been, you know, half a week or more since this has happened, and it seems like that everybody's cooled off. Like you said, he's deleted these tweets, a few of the more incendiary tweets. And I think he's trying to get back into the good graces. He was like, apparently he was like retweeting stuff that JD Vance had said in a couple of the government agencies. He was like, oh, good job, and like just trying to.
Well, remember, JD Vance is who Peter Thiel and Elon Musk want as president, right? So there was even talk that Elon Musk, in fact, he even quote tweeted and said that he would support impeachment because JD Vance is just the perfect lackey. He's a spineless, soulless vessel for the billionaires. He won't talk back. He won't yap back. He knows where his place is, right? This is exactly who Musk wants as president.
Yeah.
Another interesting tweet, I didn't see this one, was that Elon says, in light of the president's statement about cancellation of my government contracts, SpaceX will begin decommissioning its Dragon spacecraft immediately.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. That was one that I saw that was pretty funny. He comes out later and he's like, okay, that was the one of the quote tweets, I think, that was higher up on the page where somebody was like, calm it down, man, or something like that. And he's like, oh, okay, that's a good idea. We won't decommission it.
Oh yeah, here it is.
I thought it was funny. Oh, go ahead.
It says one random user says,
good advice.
Yeah, this is a shame back and forth. You're both better than this. Cool off and take a step back for a couple of days. And he said, Musk wrote, good advice. Okay, we won't decommission the Dragon. Of course, because that would cost you billions of dollars.
Well, and the U.S. government doesn't have any other options. They decommissioned all of their spacefaring craft, so they can't get to the International Space Station or get astronauts back from it without bragging. So, or going to another country that has something like that. The whole thing is pretty funny. I mean, if you just really enjoy watching these two bicker and hoping that it, causes a rift. As I recall, Musk had said that he was going to start a new political party called the America
He
Party
did.
as a
That was
result
that.
of this.
That's in this list as well. And then on Saturday, Trump said in an interview that he had no plans to amend the relationship with Musk. So
Right.
For me, I think I mentioned this to you. I don't know if I posted about it, but for me, I'm wondering, if their relationship stays the way it is, one of the biggest threats Congress was facing on the Republican side was that if you don't vote in line with Trump and the tax bills and all of these other bills, that Elon Musk was going to primary you, that he was going to use his money to make sure that you got primaried, and that so that you would fall in line and back President Trump, with his entire agenda. And now I don't know if that threat's still there.
Yeah, I don't know. It would be funny if he did, the Walter Mondale, and he just is like, I'm gonna primary against your MAGA picks with my America First picks, and we split that Republican vote.
Oh man, please do
Please,
that.
that.
I mean, because even with the full backing of the entirety of the Republican Party, the Trump MAGA Party, he couldn't even get a Wisconsin Supreme Court judge elected.
That's right.
So this rift, people, these MAGA fools on X that are crying about it's going to cause a massive loss in the House and the Senate in the midterms. I think they're right. I mean, if things stay the way that they yeah. Oh, you're hard muted or something. Something happened. We lost Mike.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I hope that it is. I hope that the infighting really does lead to just the people being frustrated with the fact that they keep electing the leopards and then the leopards keep eating each other.
Right. Yeah.
I remembered one, and I just hastily added it to the show notes, but I just wanted to go off and quote Mr. Steve Bannon here, who's a former top aide to President Trump. He said, quote, "They should immediately start a formal investigation of Musk's immigration status, because I'm of strong belief that he's an illegal alien and he should be deported from the country immediately." I mean, that's not leopards eating faces, man. I don't know what
well,
is.
I'll tell you what. I will tell you what, and I can't go into this article either because your source is New York Times, but I'll tell you what. I will stand by those people protesting in Los Angeles right now and say that Elon Musk deserves due process in immigration court.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right.
See,
due process.
We can agree on this, right?
We can do that.
Everybody should be able to argue their case in court. He shouldn't have to go back to South Africa just because Steve Bannon told him to.
Oh no, he wouldn't go to South Africa. I mean, if he's an immigrant and he's arguing with the president, he goes straight to El Salvador. I mean, that's
straight to jail.
Straight to jail. Yeah. So, okay. Whew, action-packed stuff. We only have about 15 minutes remaining on the show today, which is wild. We've only covered 2 topics. We might have another live show. We did a live show last week. Was it last week? Nobody knows. We did a live show and that went well. So we're probably going to do another live show, especially with everything that's going on right now. Maybe we'll watch some live coverage and opine on that. But before we go, we have one more big story that I would like to talk about. So let me pull that up. And that is, speaking of deportations, Greta Thunberg, the young Swedish activist known for her climate change activism, was recently deported back to Sweden from Israel. So
how did she get to Israel?
So she got to Israel by way of international waters as she was approaching Gaza. So
Olympic swimmer? What happened exactly?
Yeah, no, she was kidnapped in international waters. So here's what happened for those of you that don't know. Greta Thunberg, along with French and German, and actually several other activists from around the world, boarded a boat, or flotilla, I guess they're calling it, called the Madeleine, that was traveling from, I don't know where it left from, but it was headed towards Gaza's coast with foreign aid, flour, baby formula, medical supplies, really dangerous shit, right?
Yeah, that's stuff you make bombs with.
Yeah. And so the Israeli naval forces surrounded them about 120 miles off the coast of Gaza. So we're talking still very much international waters.
Right.
Detained them, brought them to Israel, and then claimed they were in Israel illegally and started deportation, whatever. So every
Proceeding.
proceedings. Thanks. Words. Trump took all the best words. I no longer have good words. I just have regular words, and some of those words are missing. And so Greta and the other 11 activists, I think there were 11, they all pre-recorded videos stating, like, if you see this, we've been intercepted and detained in international waters by occupational forces and forces that support Israel. Every single one of them, I think, had the same video. This time, at least, I think the last flotilla that came in, Israel naval forces bombed them, or
like open fired on it.
Yeah. Didn't do that with this one. But so this obviously, the whole point of this, whether you want to say it was a publicity stunt or not, it is to draw more attention to what's going on in Gaza. Thunberg herself says, Thunberg, I should probably say it right, Thunberg, said that, she didn't care. Her detention, what she's going through is nothing compared to the suffering that's happening in Gaza.
No, I mean, they treated her like the celebrity she is. She was, peacefully detained and gone through the deportation process. She's already back. I think she was in Paris when she last spoke. Us in this photo here, and she's like, they just treated me normally and then sent me on my way on a plane. I feel like nobody in Gaza is receiving this kind of treatment.
Yeah, and of course, what happened to all of the medical aid, the flour, the baby formula?
Right.
It's destroyed, right? So
not confiscated, but destroyed.
Oh, that's a good question. But I mean, what's the difference?
Right? Yeah, it's fair.
It's not going to Gaza, certainly. So yeah, Israeli Defense Minister Katz labels the activists as engaging in a publicity stunt and states that the activists will be shown videos of Hamas atrocities upon arrival. I mean, for God's sakes. What are you going to do? You're going to tape them to a chair? What is this, Clockwork Orange? Like, what is happening?
Yeah, Clockwork Orange. That's exactly right. Here, I can help them, though. I mean, I have the Cliffs Notes for the videos that they can show, right? So Hamas-led militants have killed around 1,200 people, mostly civilians, since October 7th, 2023, which is widely regarded as the start of this conflict, right? And then by contrast, Israel's military campaign has killed more than 54,000 Palestinians, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. So, and that they can't distinguish between civilians and combatants, but said that a gross number of that is women and children. So roughly 50 times more people dead on Gaza's side than of Israel's side. So I bet those videos are probably 50-1 showing Gaza versus Israeli, right?
No, I highly doubt that. So yeah,
no,
I mean,
it is a publicity stunt, but I think that's a nice way to tie in the whole episode, because that's what protests are.
Right.
They're publicity. They're trying to get eyes. They're trying to get ears. They're trying to get people to experience something that they are ignoring or they are unaware of, or they don't believe is as bad as it might be. And the only way to do that is by making a big spectacle of it, getting out on the freeway or getting a bunch of boats in a flotilla and trying to bring aid to people who are, under a genocide.
Right.
That's all they can do. That's all Greta Thunberg can do. It's all you and I can do.
Right. Exactly. It surprisingly, or I mean, unsurprisingly, I guess, the rest of the world is reacting appropriately while the United States and Israel remain hostile. Even the Turkish Ministry of Foreign Affairs condemned Israel's actions as a clear violation of international law, criticizing the Netanyahu government and branding Israel as a terror state. Spain's Ministry of Foreign Affairs summoned the Israeli Charge d'Affaires in Madrid to discuss the interception of the Madeleine. France, the United Kingdom, the United Nations, Amnesty International, all basically saying the same things today. So, I mean, it's clear to the rest of the world, there's one bad guy here. Or two bad guys here. The United States.
And I'll point out that it's the bad guys who don't want you to do peaceful protest.
It's always the way.
Amazing.
So I think that's a great place for us to wrap today.
I agree.
So if you're still here, stick around. Well, don't stick around any longer. We're gonna wrap. But
when the video stops playing, just
stick around. I know this is recorded, but just stick around. We're possibly a live show on Thursday. Follow us on Blue Sky if you're not already there. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, do the alerts thing, all of that stuff. And we'll continue.
Leave a comment.
We'll continue doing what we can, whether it be posting, sharing, getting the word out, whatever we can do.
Throwing soup.
Well, allegedly. You guys keep doing what you're doing. Stay safe out there, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye all.